So let's talk about ChatGPT. The world is going crazy, and there is a lot of news out there that developers might be replaced. And there's a lot of hype behind ChatGPT, and I kind of want to clear that out. To be very honest, we will not be replaced anytime soon. There's no model that I know of right now that can actually replace a competent senior developer in any organization. But before we go into that, let's just discuss what these models are. So, if any one of you have ever seen any kind of autocomplete, text autocomplete, so what I'm talking about is something like this. So if I go for text autocomplete keyboard, okay, and I go to image, yeah, most of you might have seen something like this. An autocomplete where you click on the words and it'll autocomplete. And I think as someone young, you might have even tried doing this. Like if you just click on the button over and over again, you might get a garbled text. So these were the initial stages of a language model. So way back, this is the most trivial language model you can talk about. And ChatGPT comes in the similar category. It's a language model. So even in the same example where you keep clicking on your phone and it'll predict text based on whatever text you have sent before, it is just guessing what you would write after this. So I'm sitting on a bench and maybe eating a burger or something like that. So that's how language models started off, like the very basic language models using some methodologies that I want to get into depth of, but that's a very trivial language model. Now, when it comes to ChatGPT, it's not as trivial, and it has a huge data set. To be very exact, it is trained on basically the corpus of the internet. So basically, ChatGPT is just a language model plus just, a huge data set. So essentially what ChatGPT does is that it predicts text. So how is this having intelligence? I'm very surprised that people are freaking out saying this AI is suddenly having intelligence. There are some papers, and I'm yet to go into extreme details about general intelligence coming through ChatGPT 4. But as of now, nothing is very 100% clear that if there is an actual, even anything close to general intelligence that ChatGPT 4 has achieved. For all discussions, it's just a language model and you don't need to worry much about it. So if you want to know about the terms, it uses something called transform, or it's a model that uses transform, which is a advancement or something you might have heard called LSTM. But these are all terms. This stands for long short-term memory. But in essence, just like we go back to the example of you clicking on the text where you just click until it auto-completes, what ChatGPT does is that it picks whatever data you give to it and tries to auto-complete the question for you. So hypothetically, if you're looking at how to cook pancakes, it would do something like, I have so many recipes on pancakes. I'm going to fetch a recipe from pancakes that I have, the one that has the most like or has some weighted value such that it's able to judge that this is the best pancake recipe and show the recipe to you. But you might have noticed that when you pick something from the internet, it's not exactly right. If you go to your mother's house or your parents, mother, father, whoever might be cooking for you, and they make pancakes for you, or they make something specific for you, they might have a secret recipe. Basically, this has come through them tinkering with the data itself, that is the original recipe, and getting something better. And ChatGPT or GPT-4 cannot really do this. It cannot really tweak until it has a sandbox to experiment. And although GPT-4, I think, is getting integrated with sandboxes like Python to run its own code and stuff like that, it's going to be a long time before it actually has runtime environments like actually production and go into issues. So what I mean by this is, even with the example of cooking or the example of developers, GPT-4 is still extremely powerless when it comes to the pure ingenuity that comes with human beings. And if you are a senior developer, you should not be worried. Like, if you have used, so it's a good example is if you're an extremely senior developer and you're like looking in, like you're working every day, just open up CoPilot. CoPilot, I think, has started using GPT-4 and start using CoPilot. You will notice the code CoPilot produces may sometimes be utter garbage, right? It may not have the context. And even for a very simple thing like and examples that Primeagen has shown, which I will link in the link below, it will ignore null conditions. It will cause bugs. And apart from all of these problems, where it is not able to understand the data itself, it's just a predictive language model. It does not have intrinsic understanding of programming itself. That is the first problem. The second problem is, although it does not have any intrinsic understanding of programming itself, it also has another problem called hallucination. And hallucination is a serious problem. So what is hallucination? Now, think of you giving a baby access to all of the knowledge in the world. Okay? Everything that has ever been said by human beings or written by human beings was given access to, like a baby had an access to this. The problem with such kind of issues is, like such kind of system would be, the baby would not be able to differentiate or make a decision between what is right and what is wrong. So in any fields, you feel that there is decision making in question, GPT cannot replace immediately. This aspect of decision making is extremely difficult, and to determine the truth and false of something is not easy to do for even for GPT. It cannot. And what I mean in extents by what I mean in detail, what hallucination is at random GPT would say some random fact like the sky is blue, the sky is, so it might say something like the sky is pink. And the problem with this statement is it would think it's true. It can infer data from all of the corpus of knowledge that we have provided to it and think this is 100% true when this fact can be 100% false. So think about a situation where someone is trying to program in, like, you're trying to make a code base where you're doing something critical, right? You're writing code that would actually maybe be used in a vehicle. You wouldn't want your AI to be wrong sometimes. You would want this code to work as expected. It would be very dangerous if a running car would suddenly misunderstand that, oh, if someone presses accelerator at 40% and brake at 10%, oh, don't stop the car, just let it go, or some crap like that, right? So you wouldn't want systems to have ambiguity. You would ideally want most of the systems to not have ambiguity. I understand that humans introduce bugs themselves, but to all of my experience using GPT-4, ChatGPT and CoPilot, it introduces more bugs than junior developers in most situations. So what GPT will remove is the menial tasks. All of the tasks that were annoying you, or at least annoys me as a developer, now I don't have to do because of GPT. I can focus on solving serious problems. And trust me when I say this, if GPT was trained on the corpus of knowledge that is present on the internet, I can tell you for a fact that any senior developer has definitely led to situations where he gets into issues where he does not find a solution online. So are you trying to say if no solution exists online, the company will stop working if they fire all developers? So if you're in a field that has serious decision making to be taken, and this decision making needs humans in the sense that it needs to be opinionated. The other problem about ChatGPT is it's not opinionated. It is extremely not opinionated. It tries to be as unbiased as it is. But being unbiased might not always be right. And it also is kind of politically leftist, which is weird too. So you wouldn't want systems like this to make our world anyway or write code for anything critical. So you do not have to worry for most parts. It will slowly replace jobs that are extremely menial and small, maybe jobs that were usually taken by bigger service companies in India, in the Indian tech space, which was just monotonous work where you were getting paid extremely low. Those kind of jobs might be replaced because those kind of jobs I think ChatGPT can handle. But for most parts, when it comes to development, in serious development, working with big code bases, I do not think ChatGPT is going to replace us anytime soon. On the contrary, I think it's going to be fun working with ChatGPT and GPT-4 on big code bases. Like a recent thing that they have introduced with CoPilot X is automatic documentation. Wouldn't it be more fun to work with a code base if you could just understand what the code base is doing? And if you could just get plug-in documentation for all of your code, that would be so brilliant. So I think just like the industrial revolution, the revolution of AI is just going to make life easy for most of us. And there will be some job loss. And I think people will specialize and we will move forward. At least for the horizon of 10-15 years, we don't really have to worry about us getting replaced. And when we do eventually get replaced, I think everyone will be. If we come to a point where general intelligence just starts showing up in GPT-4 or ChatGPT, I think us as society would have to change our opinion about work in general. And I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying right now, I don't see that happening anytime soon. So for developers, most part, no, ChatGPT cannot solve your problem. A good idea is try to ask ChatGPT right now, in its essence, how hooks work in general. And for example, if you know React, just ask it how hooks work. It may not give you the answer that you expect. It usually gives generic answers that you would see on the internet itself. So to summarize all of the points that I want to say, right? For developers, one, there is a problem of hallucination itself, right? GPT makes up facts, which is a problem. Then, second, not only does it make up facts, right? It does produce a lot of bugs in code it writes. So that's bad too. It does produce a lot of bugs in code it writes. I'm very serious when I say this. So GPT does make up facts, which is bad. It does produce a lot of bugs in the code it writes. Not always right. Like, it will miss exception cases. It will miss exception handling. Like right now, if you ask it to write a bash program to keep your mouse moving, maybe you don't want to you want to keep your mouse moving and not be active on Teams. Maybe, if you ask it to write a script like that, which I was trying to do because once upon a time when I was in my first year of my work, I wanted a script that could just keep my mouse moving. And I tried asking it to write that. It was not able to. Both of its scripts were wrong. So it does require a lot more probing for it to get it right. And it usually does not get it right also. And it is very opinionated, right? GPT can't really give you subjective. Like, it cannot give you subjective answers. For example, if you ask a senior dev with some constraints which front-end or back-end framework to ask, they'll give you an answer. But most of ChatGPT's answers are, both are good, all of the things are good in all the cases and stuff like that. So I think when it comes to decision making, when it comes to architectural decisions, and when it comes to issues, for example, in prod, you can't go to ChatGPT and be like, okay, here is my prod environment, here is all of the context around this, here is the user who's having this bug, can you fix this? I don't think ChatGPT can do that. So I don't think we should freak out. I don't know why people are freaking out as much. Don't worry, if you're really interested in the field, like some of us are, right, really obsessed with the field, I think you should be fine. If you really love programming, you should be fine. And the question of what happens if eventually it does replace us, if something extremely specialized like programming were to be replaced, developers were to be replaced, I think most jobs would be. In that situation, I think governments will have to slowly start adopting universal basic income. So UBI is the only option. What is UBI? UBI just means that governments would start putting extremely large tax on organizations that are fully automated. Now you might ask why? Why would they put 90% tax? That would be ridiculous, right? Not really. If everyone's job is gone, and companies are not paying people, employees money, who are the consumers? Who will the company sell to if no one has money? So if you come to a point where there is extreme job loss and there is just complete automation of all systems, UBI will come into place. I think this is something which is very prevalently known by people. Universal basic income is the option of the world, and I don't think that would be a bad world either. Assume we all lose our jobs, all of us, all developers, all managers, all companies, right? Like just companies automate completely or reach to 90% automation or 100% automation, we can just live our life. Robots will do our work. Robots will do the cleaning. Robots will do all of the menial tasks, and we can just run around like when we were kids. I think that's a bad thing. So, first thing, we are not getting replaced anytime soon, 100%. And to add on to that, if we do, I think most government systems will not work without universal basic income. So yeah, that's about it. That's my fight with ChatGPT. It's kind of stupid most of the time. Trust me, if you hear developers say that it's kind of writing code on its own, these developers have never worked in production extensively. I can 100% assure you, because if they have, the code mostly ChatGPT writes is not that great. So I'm not afraid. As a senior developer, I'm not afraid, and I don't think you should be either. See you in the next video. Thank you.